The Kandahar Giant is a really popular story on YouTube these days, ranging from people making videos saying they were actually there and interviewing people who were actually there, to people saying it's absolute nonsense. Today, I'm going to be telling you the story of the Kandahar Giant, as well as investigating to see whether this story is true, and using my skills that I learned in the Royal Marines Commandos to compare it to the military aspect of this story and see if there's any plausible explanation to it. But before we get started, I am Luke, a former Royal Marines Commando with a passion for storytelling, both the paranormal and military. If you do enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. This is a new format for the channel. It's only the third story video that I've done, so if you do have any constructive criticism, leave them in the comments section down below. Also, it would be really good if you turned on that notification bell so you get notified every week when the next story appears. In 2002, a group of highly trained Navy SEALs went missing in the mountains of Afghanistan. Without any indication as to why this group of highly trained soldiers went missing, the HQ decided to send out another patrol to investigate. This didn't seem so alarming at first, as many things could happen to prevent this missing group from communicating back with HQ. From missing batteries to simply losing signal, considering they are in the unexplored Afghan mountains. The second troop going to investigate was simply told that it's a missing group of lads last seen in a certain area of the mountains. It wasn't long before they were patrolling down a narrow path along the mountains with very little indication for activity from anyone. After a few hours of patrolling, they found themselves noticing the narrow path was starting to get larger and opening up to a small plateau. On the other side of the mountain, right where the path finishes, was a large opening to a cave. Now, if you know anything about Afghanistan, finding cave systems is not unusual. In fact, the Taliban used these caves to hide and move from place to place. What was unusual, however, was there was bones scattered around outside the cave. A lot of these bones seemed to be animal bones, but a few of them seemed oddly similar to human bones. After a few moments of investigating, the SEALs discovered something that really made them worry. They found one of the comm systems from the previous missing Navy SEALs. Now, as a former Royal Marines Commando, I can't emphasize enough how important these communication systems are, and if you lose one, how horrific it can actually be. People will even go to lengths of using phosphorus on comms kit to destroy it before the enemy gets their hands on one. So for one of the SEALs to find this really worried them. They instantly realized that something was strange and decided it would be wise to back off a little bit and prepare to come under contact for something like an ambush. However, it wasn't the Taliban that appeared out of that cave. A giant human, ranging between 16 to 20 feet, lunged out of the cave. This giant had bright red hair down to its shoulders, a giant red beard, 6 fingers on each hand, double sets of teeth, and 6 toes on each feet. This giant lunged out the cave at shocking speed and instantly speared one of the SEALs with a huge weapon it was holding. As soon as the SEALs witnessed their friend get speared by this giant monster, training kicked in. They instantly started shooting the giant with their weapons, which included M4s, 308s, and even Barrett 50s. It wasn't long before the giant fell, and the lads were able to get on comms to call for support for their friend. Once the Chinook arrived, they loaded the killed SEAL into the aircraft, but then they also towed the giant away. No one ever saw the giant again. Now, I wanted to do a new segment in this story where I investigate a little bit. This is a military story, so it's very easy for me to nitpick this story and see what I feel like is right and what's wrong and what might be something a little bit more fantastical. The first thing I noticed was how much the comms kit affected the seals. When they saw that comms kit, they backed off, they prepped to come under contact, they formed a formation ready for something like an ambush. This is something that would really happen, especially considering how important these comms kit are. Like, I got told so many times in training, do not lose this kit. Do whatever you can to save it. So to see that in the story really gives it a bit of realism, which I really appreciate. The big thing that I found while investigating, though, was actually a second story. This story was told to a friend from a SEAL when they were drinking out in Afghan on base, and then this friend went on to tell people online. But the problem with this story is there are some key differences. Instead of stumbling upon this cave, like in the first story, they actually already knew about this cave and was told that it was a Taliban outpost. And when they got to the cave, this giant was actually fighting the Taliban and then jumped on the SEALs after it. But the big point and the big difference in the second story is actually 3 SEALs died, not 1. Now, I couldn't really find much about these SEALs dying. I didn't really know where to look for this type of stuff, especially considering we don't have an exact date as to when this happened. We just have kind of a region, a year. So it was really hard for me to investigate that side of it. Plus, also, I don't really want to name names, especially for fallen soldiers, as, you know, you have to be as respectful as possible. Whether this story is true or not, SEALs could have died that day, and we have to respect that. Now, we're also going to look at the fact that these 2 stories could be fake, right? One could be real, and one could be jumping on the bandwagon. We don't know this. And I kind of like to call this military mythology, right? Military myths. Because what happens is when people go to war, things happened, stories get told, and them stories evolve through word of mouth. Kind of like how Greek mythology, Norse mythology, Roman mythology, Egyptian mythology was told for a long time through word of mouth, and these stories changed and adapted compared to different regions. You could live in a completely different part of the country, and the story would be completely different. But what's important is that there was a morals around this story. With these military ones, it's experience. There's no moral to the story in this. It's just someone's experience. So to say that it's going to change from region to region might not have as much sense as somebody might just want to jump on the bandwagon. Now, when I was looking for articles on this, what I did find is one article and then multiple other websites copying that one article. It was very difficult to find different articles here and there. So that was also kind of weird. How the fact that this story is very popular on YouTube, and yet we only get one version of an article of it. There were interviews on YouTube from supposed soldiers who were there, and they did seem very passionate. I did watch one of them videos. It was a very compelling video. And when you watch these videos of these people, these veterans actually telling their experience, they have a lot more emotional baggage with it, and it makes it more convincing. So it's very easy for me to be like, this makes sense. Why would they lie? At the end of the day, if a SEAL did die, why would they lie? Now, we know that giants have been around in stories for thousands of years, ranging from the giants in Norse mythology, from giants to Greek and Roman mythology, to giants all over the world. This is something that's been in stories for a very long time. Now, I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories as to whether giants are real or giants are not. That is well out of the realm of my expertise. But what I do want to say is that there are some reasons as to why they wouldn't lie about this story. The soldiers had a friend die. They had to go home with that baggage, and they had to tell that story. Now, a soldier might not have died, but if they did, again, they wouldn't lie. Secondly, the reports of them going out on patrol need to be out there somewhere. I haven't been able to find them, but I'm sure these reports are out there somewhere. Every time a troop leaves a HQ or a forward operating base or something like that, a report gets taken when they get back about the encounters and what happened. We've seen this from videos of these UFO videos flying around the internet right now, these tic-tac UFOs, right? Luckily, we have footage of it, but even that would have been reported back to HQ when you get home. So there's got to be a report out there of what actually happened. Now, personally, do I believe this story? Do I not? I feel like this story has some validity to it. I feel like it's very easy for military myths, which is this new term that I'm coining, can have some validity to them. I feel like this patrol did go out there. I feel like they did encounter something. I don't know whether it was a giant with big bright red hair, whether it was a giant with double sets of teeth and 6 fingers and 6 toes on each hand and feet. But what I do know is that something happened, and these soldiers wouldn't just make this up for no reason, especially if a fellow SEAL died. I know for a fact if I went on patrol and a fellow Royal Marine died, I wouldn't want to go home and tell a fake story knowing that that family might hear that story, because that's incredibly disrespectful. So if a SEAL did die on that day, then I think there's some truth to this story. As for the second story, this second story was told to a friend from a SEAL after they were drinking, and it has a few more steps to get to the source, whereas the first story was a straight interview from the SEAL to the interviewer. So the second story might be a little bit more elaborate. There might be a little bit more jumping on the bandwagon. I don't know. It might be completely fake in general, but the first story I feel like does have some validity. But what do you think? Do you believe in the Kandahar Giant? We know that there's stories, biblical texts, mythology about giants in that area that people really do believe in. So do you believe in it? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you have any more evidence, leave it in the comment section down below, and maybe I'll make a second video on what I consider one of the best military stories out there, especially during the Afghan conflict. Let me know in the comment section if you have any critiques for the video as well. I am still learning and getting better at storytelling, and I want to be as good as I possibly can at this format. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Links down below to all my usual stuff. There's 2 other YouTube channels I have down there if you want to check them out. And other than that, members, you're beautiful, you're amazing, I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for you beautiful members. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. I genuinely appreciate it. Until next time, guys, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.